try to do it 10. No?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Energy Hill Family Talks. I'm here with Ryan and Alyssa.
Hi, guys.
We are going to be talking about the brands in 2020 that have adjusted well. Obviously, I mean, I've at least been impressed with how many brands, how quickly it actually happened with ads that you saw talking about, whether it was healthcare workers, whether it was delivery stuff or food places shifting. So there's lots of things that we can talk about here, but we're going to talk about some of the main winners. We're mostly, because we want to keep it positive, we're going to mostly talk about winners. We're going to talk about a few losers, but mostly this video is going to talk about the brands that did really well shifting and pivoting this year. So, all right. Should we introduce the first one?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
I'll start with Disney Plus because once movies went out, we knew that they were going to have to shift from, it was going to be a minute until movies came back, and everyone knew they were going to be uncomfortable going to movies. Because even if you are 6 feet apart, you're still sitting in the same seat that someone sat in. So it was a little bit of an awkward situation. So Disney was the first to really take advantage of that and say, okay, we're releasing Mulan, which we're supposed to release in the summer, I believe, for $30. So that was an interesting shift for them.
Yep. I think that also there was another one, was it Trolls? Rock,
oh yeah,
Rock,
no, that was actually
Rockstar
Oh yeah,
Tour.
that was $20.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
And I think it did so well. We'll have to look to see if it did well. I think it did.
No, it did well.
That it did so well. Disney was like, hey, let's make Mulan 30 on top of our subscription. So I think that was kind of an interesting tactic and decision they made.
Yeah.
So
I wonder. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just thought it was even more, savvy but strange that they now said in December it'll be free.
Right.
for everybody.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I was always gonna be waiting when it was $30. It's just like it makes sense for a family maybe.
yeah,
I guess,
we did the Trolls World Tour.
Yeah.
Loved it. We literally, I actually think we rented it first because it wasn't out to purchase, and then we purchased it later. I think the same thing with Mulan, right? It was just for rent for $30.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think
just
it was
rent.
for purchase.
I don't know. Yeah, they
It
did
was
change
for
it
rent
eventually.
for
Yeah.
$20. You could have it 24 hours. You could watch it. I think we watched World Tour probably 5 times.
Which is so weird.
And then we ended up buying it too. So
Do you guys think that this is something that will stick around?
I like it, to be honest. I think it's, I don't know. I think that the world, I miss the theater world where you go to the movies,
Exactly.
you have popcorn, just that smell, sticky floors, disgusting. But I just think that those are the things that, I don't know, to me, like I look at Enya and Elena, are my little ones. Will they ever experience that? Is it all going to be like outdoor viewing now? Is it going to be more like experience theaters? I don't know.
It's going to change it completely for sure. What do you think? Do you think it will stick? Do you think it'll be something that in 5 years we'll still be buying movies online when they release right away?
I feel like more people are going to jump on the opportunity to provide it online versus in person, just with the way shifting economy overall.
Right.
Yeah. It's a little bit sad.
Yeah, it is.
For sure. And with already so many movies being released just on the streaming platforms, Netflix is a movie and they just release it. So that's already kind of started that shift. But yeah, I agree. I miss going to the theater. I haven't been. So I really do.
It's weird.
After concerts, it's
As
probably
a
my number one.
world, we've kind of just...
Yep. There's out. Okay, so let's talk about the next one. Both of these companies, Amazon was one of the first ones I saw pivot their ad strategy. I was seeing Amazon ads about safe delivery and keeping people safe, their workers, very fast. And in this, we also want to talk about Walmart because they launched their delivery service, subscription delivery service. They also have always had the pickup, but they really pushed that in their ads now, being able to pick up your groceries. So I thought that was a big win for Walmart, who I think has pivoted really well throughout the pandemic.
I would say that Amazon's shares, I think they dropped a little bit down around 1,500. What was them in March? I think now they're around 3,000 and plus. So I think that overall they did quite well. But I honestly think that was just a matter of time. The COVID definitely put it into high gear across the world for online product purchases and groceries and whatnot. I think Walmart's smart. I think most, even in our area in Southeast, Publix, and they've been doing that for a while, but now all of a sudden everything went that way. My biggest silver lining of all this is I'm a little OCD myself. When I'm in checkout, I hate putting my card into this crunchy, disgusting, looks like someone sneezed all over it, to scan my card, and then putting my card in my wallet with all my other cards. I'm like, that's so gross. So Publix used to not have Apple Pay, now they do. And I think that's huge. It's just like, they had the technology, they just
Yeah.
didn't turn it on. Now it's like, oh, we're going to turn it on. So I think the silver lining is that it can be touchless, more of a touchless world. I still think there's negatives that come out of that, the psychology of people, human interaction.
Right.
But from I'm doing grocery shopping, yes, I don't want to touch things.
From an ad standpoint too, like you said about Amazon though, I was noticing workers, like they were requesting workers. We were getting postcards in the mail asking if we wanted to work for Amazon. So they definitely shifted real quick.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. It's been crazy. So
I would love to know, you talk about how fast Amazon, it accelerated like the growth of Amazon to an extent, which was already huge, obviously. But I would love to know in terms of demographics, the older population. I mean, I would think that most of them probably weren't delivering groceries or ordering groceries ahead. They were just going to the store like normal. And I would love to know how many subscribe to Amazon Prime versus regular. How many now pick up their groceries? Because none of them. If I was old, I can tell you for sure I would not want to go into a grocery store.
Yeah.
So I would love to know how fast they.
Someone put it in chat, or we'll find out. I think that's a good, stat to know. That what is Amazon's Prime growth,
just
especially with that older
demographic.
demo.
Yeah, right.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, both of them obviously big wins. They pivoted very well. When you're those bigger companies, I feel like it makes it a lot easier to pivot, and also people always need their things. Another big one that's also I'm still surprised. So we're gonna talk about Zoom. Is the next one. I'm still surprised though that like Skype just disappeared. All these other ones just disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was just okay. Zoom is the way we're going. Like
Zoom took over.
No, it's
why do you
crazy.
think it was just Zoom?
Well, so here's what's funny. We actually switched as a company to Zoom. I want to say it was in the end of last year. So it was weird for us that we felt like, we were discovering this new platform, yet they were already a multi-$100 million company. Then COVID hits in March, all of a sudden they're a $1 billion company. Like literally within a span of a month, they just exploded. So I don't. What is it that they did differently? I think their marketing is good. It's solid. It's not. I just think it's more of a snowball effect where like a couple companies start, hey, we're gonna go with Zoom. All of a sudden, we're gonna go with Zoom too, and all of a sudden it's just a wave. But it was very interesting how we were already there, but we didn't expect it to become what it is.
Right.
So.
I think it's also to do with Google, that it's linked more so with Google than like Microsoft Teams.
True. It's true.
More people have Gmail, so that's what they reverted to.
Yeah, it is easy to connect it.
Interesting.
Calendars and
It's
stuff.
interesting. Google versus Microsoft, who kind of won that marketing.
I think, Microsoft wise, it just kind of seems messy where they have Skype. Why do they have Skype and Teams?
That's a great point.
Why didn't they
Maybe
figure out?
consolidation of their platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think Zoom, and I don't know, again, I don't really know what made it better to people, but I do think that, like you said, people were kind of jumping on it. I mean, I was using Zoom a year ahead because I would record videos remotely with someone, and we record them screen share, and it was just the best platform for that. And I guess that people just kind of were already starting on that bandwagon before it came along. So
Interesting. They're now a $1 billion company, and they weren't before. So
yeah,
throw that out
it's
there.
crazy.
Crazy.
And it feels like it just kind of fell in their lap in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Talk about TikTok very quickly because it's not really a brand that necessarily pivoted, but if you talk about a brand that wasn't too, maybe affected by COVID in the way that people spend more time on their phones potentially, but other than that, they really just exploded on their own, investing in creators, individual creators, and also just a platform where following is, people can follow, and that's like grew a lot of individuals through TikTok. So, and obviously they have somewhat secured their space in the United States technology. So, I don't know. What do you think about their growth this year?
I think it's majorly the entertainment factor of things. People would just do dances after dances after dances. So, entertainment definitely. Something to do.
I think COVID, it's funny, we saw the frontline workers actually getting on TikTok. It's almost like it was a rallying call for at least the people I follow, that it was like, cool, wow, that's awesome. I do think that it's still to be determined as far as the US, we're gonna see probably, I'd say early Q1 of 2021, we'll see, hey, are they actually gonna have a foothold, whoever's gonna buy them or whatever is gonna have to happen. What I was shocked at 2 billion downloads, that's a pretty big milestone.
That's big.
So that's when people were like, oh no, it's not going to make it. 2 billion downloads.
Right.
Yeah.
So no matter what you say, now it's not active users, but I still think that that's a huge milestone that not too many apps out there can say. We've reached a third of the world's population from download
Insane.
standpoint. That's pretty
That
crazy.
is insane.
That's it.
I downloaded it, and then it got too addicting, and I got rid of it.
Yeah.
And also, it
I've
did
done that like
sketch
10
me out.
times.
You have.
But I'm still back with the TikTok. Yeah, whatever.
I never touched it.
It's still the security part of it still sketches me out. Like I know people who know a lot about that space, and I mean it definitely is sketchy. Lastly, we'll mention just in general because there are so many brands who did this and so many brands who pivoted to brands who really supported healthcare workers. I do think, and I think I want to mention them because the brands who at least pivoted to some extent during this period, at least maybe not pivoted their entire strategy, like including a new service like Walmart Plus. At least they had a voice in some way or shifted their voice throughout the pandemic because if you're doing that, then people know that you're in the know, that you are relating to people who, you know, care about your brand and that sort of thing. So I think that speaks volumes to being able to pivot, being able to position yourself to, hey, we relate to you and what's going on in the world after the pandemic. They know that, okay, you were at least somewhat with us as much as a brand can be throughout the pandemic. So I think all of those brands who did that, there's several, I mean, especially even food companies who offered, or fast food places that offered stuff to healthcare workers and all that. So, yeah. It's an interesting, it's a one of a kind type of thing where it's like across the board, all these brands pivoted, but I mean, I think it's valuable still.
For sure.
So,
I think any organization going post-COVID 2020, you have to be able to pivot and be able to react to things that are outside of your control.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny on LinkedIn, we're talking about budgeting. I got into a topic with people, and everyone's like going back and forth on if you didn't have a flexible budget going into March of this year, you had to have adapted. You just can't make decisions based on, ooh, this is what we had in stone and it's there. I think it has to be made of clay, and you shape it as the year goes through, especially with the 2020 type year. I look back to 2008 with the housing market. So there's things in our culture and world that are out of businesses' control that they have to be able to adapt to quickly. But also you're talking more about a branding messaging standpoint, I think as well. So 2020 was a very testing year for a lot of brands and organizations. And sometimes it's best to just be flexible and say, hey, we can't control a global pandemic.
Yeah.
So I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever see it again. So it's something that you have to be flexible on.
Sure.
talking a little bit more about that strategy, I think it's interesting that, you know, brands that do things right, they have the most leverage in the situation because there's so everyone's scared, no one's doing anything, no one's changing. So if you're the brand that changes and takes action, then you're the one who's going to be able to leverage that, not only right now but in the future.
I think that McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, there's a handful of food that we're saying, hey, any help, frontline service worker, stop by. I think that was a really smart. It was a no-brainer from a leadership standpoint, but still they just said they were out about it.
Right.
Like, hey, stop by.
Something so simple as free coffee. Walmart did that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's be flexible to say we'll lose money, but no, you won't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just thought it was so great to see McDonald's doing things and Chick-fil-A and I think Walmart. I mean, there's so many brands doing things that were just like, we're behind you guys. So yeah.
Well, we've only talked about winners. We're obviously past our 10 minutes. Should we talk very briefly about losers?
Yeah.
So,
and I'm not going to say losers.
Because this is, like you said, it's unavoidable. It's a pandemic, and there's so many things that are obvious, and we don't really. I think what the most interesting thing we could talk about is, I think. Well, we'll talk first about airlines, and they're, as compared to our next one, they're the ones who have at least tried to pivot and say, okay, we can do things safer, we can space out the seats, type of thing. But it's still, most people are a little bit sketched out to go to airports for sure. But how do you think that they've done throughout the pandemic? Either one of you guys.
Real quick, I want to switch it to you, Disney, how they handled it.
Oh yeah,
'Cause I think that was awesome.
Yeah.
What Disney did.
Disney was major.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to completely reconfigure everything to the capacity. They lowered everything, the amount of workers. They had to lay a ton of people off, which was unfortunate. But they made do with what they had for sure. All the lines are distanced 6 foot, so they had to put line markers. They had to put up plexiglass. The extent to which they go is amazing.
But then they also extend out your time in which you could use
Oh,
your
yeah.
yearly passes.
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer.
That was smart.
But it's
Yeah, I
still
remember that.
Did they have to do it? Probably. Probably. But still, they didn't really have to. I mean, if they would have been all about the bottom line, they would have said, no, you have to use your yearly pass. Well, no, let's extend it. I think it's just smart. Also, I think, Southwest, they extended out my points, that were going to have to be used this year. They extended out 6 months. So things like that where, again, back to flexibility. You have to kind of say, well, this year everyone was thrown a curveball.
Yeah.
And so I think that's at least be accommodating to where people are at. So
For sure.
I'm curious about how well Disney, because you even talked about, because you've been multiple times and you talked about how it's gotten busier.
Oh,
It means like the capacity wise, it'll again come to a point where it's like so hard to manage all of these people. And I mean I know there's already lines that for the bigger rides that like spill out into the walkways.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like that must be a lot for them to manage. And
It
keep.
is way different.
Yeah.
Like if you went there even just last year and then you come back and it's just a whole different experience. You have the employees wearing not only masks but face shields. Thankfully now it's getting cooler. They're not sweating as much. But yeah, to your point, the lines, they extend to points you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because you get to see new areas.
is
but
Disneyland open?
No,
not
I don't think
yet.
so.
They're still fighting
Yeah.
for it.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Real quick, cruise lines, they're the ones who have not pivoted. I mean, they have not really done a whole lot at all. I mean, have they gotten back to cruising yet? They were planning on September, and then I don't know if they ever
So
actually did them.
Back
right?
to my OCD thing. Cruise lines, you just kind of think of it. You're all on one ship in the middle of the
Air
ocean.
circulating.
Air circulating. It's almost like an airplane for a week or whatever,
Yeah.
4 days. So I don't know. That's a tough.
What's gonna happen?
How do they accommodate that? And I think that this is where its innovation comes into play. What's the first cruise line
Yeah.
to come up with this new air technology
Yeah.
that I don't know, that something that they have to innovate.
No, really,
and
I
I think
agree.
that's where there's opportunity right now for the Royal Caribbean, the Carnival, all of them. They all have this opportunity to innovate right now.
Yeah.
Because if they don't innovate now, I do think that they're going to. It's an uphill battle into 2021.
I think already for a lot of people, cruise lines, if you're a family that doesn't need to think about affordability, cruises are kind of like, why would I go on a cruise? You know, because cruises are relatively cheap. But when you think about big vacation, but now it's like, how can they pivot to still accommodate to cheaper vacations, but still have all of the all of the things that amenities and
Health
things that they
concern,
needed and the
yeah.
health concerns, all that. It's like
So,
gonna be
so
tough.
I think what's going to happen is the first one that innovates,
yes,
regardless of price is going to have to go up. But I think that first to innovate is going to win the
Yeah.
market.
Major
and win the
innovation.
market in the sense of they're going to be the Zoom in the
Yeah.
cruise line space. But it's right now, they have to be doing it right now.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because federally they still are unable to, or it's
Right.
capacity or whatever. I feel the same way about sporting events, and I think that it's just weird that in some states you see fans in the stadium, and then in other states no fans.
Yeah.
I feel that NBA did not do a good job putting big LCDs. That was just so
awkward.
awkward. And then the fake audience.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just
weird.
cringy.
I didn't even see that.
Oh, it's I don't know.
I did think of one more. When you mentioned sports, I know we're going very long this
It's
week.
okay. It's fun.
Concerts, and I've seen some innovations.
yeah.
I've seen some innovations with it where first of all they're outdoors, and then they have little, not plexiglass spaces, but they're essentially little platforms where people can all sit in one space. Obviously, you've had online concerts, but I'm just gonna rule those out. Those don't count. You have like iHeartRadio Giant. It's like no one, like whatever.
That's
But the little platforms thing, I don't know how long that will last, but I do know that in terms of like no one's going to allow a mosh pit for a long time. I don't think. So you
No.
know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. And,
Well,
and
in
the
my
same thing
mosh
where-
pitting days, which actually is a thing. I just don't. Yeah, I don't. Honestly, no. I think that's gonna come back. It's gonna be under the radar, but I think it's gonna come back. I just think it's gonna be the big concerts, the pavilions, the big shells. I just think those are gonna be the ones that
Yeah,
struggle.
not the independent. Oh, you think the big ones are going to struggle?
I think so.
Whereas the small-
independent ones I think are gonna come back because
Yeah.
they're gonna do it under the radar.
Yeah.
Who cares? The big ones. The last. I know it's gonna be really weird. The last concert my wife and I went to was Andrea Bocelli, and it was at the Forum, the Lightning Play at the
Oh yeah,
Arena. Amelie,
there
thank
you
you.
go.
And packed, and yet that's not gonna happen again. Like at least for any time soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was packed, and it's like it was such an awesome experience. But man, that's not gonna. I don't know. There's so many things that are like, is it gonna happen again? Is it gonna come back?
It's
Please. you
Yeah,
know?
you
and
hope
it's like
so.
all the independent concert venues. Are they going to stay open? I know some have already certainly closed, so that sucks. That's scary. But yeah, I just don't. How do the small ones pivot? There really is no way other than when bands finally are
Underground.
okay with touring again.
It's gonna be
Which
underground.
again, what bands are gonna be okay with touring and taking their responsibility? I don't know. But when they do, you know, taking the temperature checks maybe. Probably not going to require a mask though. I mean, you're probably not. I mean, I'm just assuming.
Maybe
like,
it's the
you're gonna have a
maybe it's the outdoor
right
event.
I think
innovation.
outdoor is probably the way
Yeah.
it's going to have to go for a lot of outdoor.
I'm
concerts.
okay with outdoor innovation.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's awesome.
I like outdoor
I think
concerts.
actually-
I would love the idea of like, there's that waterfront park down in Tampa, and they never use that space.
I know.
The amphitheater, and I think it looks like such a great concert space, and they just never use it. So.
Outdoors coming.
Yeah.
I think so. Outdoor,
Anyways.
what about outdoor movies?
Oh, they just opened
They
in
have
Armature
some-
Works. They just opened
Yeah.
a drive-in theater, and the whole
Armature
open
Works.
parking lot on Armature Works.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
pretty
good.
cool.
I think I liked outdoor movies back in the day.
We had a drive-in in my hometown in Wichita that remained open, and you
nice.
could see 3 movies, and it was like
Yeah.
$10 or something.
Fun.
Yeah.
And you load up everyone.
Yep.
In
We had a truck. My dad had a truck, so
That's the way to do it.
so
See?
fun.
Okay, maybe in a good way.
I'm
Silver
down.
lining.
I did tweet that a while back. Like could be the one silver lining is that drive-in
Yeah.
theaters become a norm again because they are super fun.
Super
So-
fun. Okay, cool. We went way
Eventually
over.
they'll start putting movies out again, you know, and then we can really have a great drive-in experience.
Exactly. Not all the old
No new movies. Okay, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's some of the brands that won and lost in 2020. And from Ryan, Alyssa, Christian, we'll see you guys back here next week. Peace.
Bye, guys.